Hi, I'm Julie Thompson. I'm here to interview Randall Rothenberg, President and CEO of the Interactive Advertising Bureau. Here we are at the IAB MIXX Conference on the first day of Advertising Week. Hi, Randall.
Hi, Julie. It's good to be here with you.
You too. You have wowed the audience this morning with an unbelievably packed, dynamic program. Can you give us a little summary for the sorry souls who weren't in the room?
Yeah, and there are many sorry souls who weren't in the room because we're sold out. We've packed it with about 750 people, and but we know that a lot of other people are following on Twitter and other platforms. Yeah, the theme of this year's conference is what's the story? Building narrative in the digital age. And so the whole thrust of the morning is really about the importance of storytelling, story building, and narrative. I kicked it off by saying, look, I might get fired for saying this, but the next innovations that will rock the world of people in media, marketing, and advertising will have nothing to do with technology. I said the future of advertising, marketing, and media is not about building a better search algorithm. It's not about building a better digital video compression mechanism. That all the wizards in Silicon Valley, if they succeed at what they're intending to do, will create ultimate efficiencies in the creation and distribution of media spaces and time slots. And then what? Let's say we bring the cost of creating and distributing media spaces and time slots down to zero. Where does differentiation come from? Where does differentiation come from? And obviously the answer is differentiation comes from what you put inside the media spaces and time slots. So that's what this conference was about, and that's what all the speakers this morning talked about.
Yeah, and it does seem like a lot of your publisher members are really tuning into the story and story building. What are some great examples you're seeing out on the horizon?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, what was presented here on our stage this morning. The opening speaker was Jonathan Mildenhall from Coca-Cola, who is really Coca-Cola's head of creativity. And he spoke very, very eloquently on the not just the importance of creativity and narrative and story building to Coke, but basically how that has become Coke's business. They are in two businesses, really the creation and distribution of beverages, but the primary business is inserting themselves into the culture through story building. And what he pointed out was that digital technologies allow the elements of stories to be liquid and linked. So it was a brilliant presentation about how social connectivity, other forms of digital connectivity allow marketers, in fact require marketers, to be story builders on their own. He was followed up by Carolyn Everson, who is head of global marketing for Facebook, and she really followed. Among other things, they introduced a new Facebook ad format that's going to be more brand hospitable than what they've had. And another thing that happened on the stage that got a lot of news is Hulu head of sales JP Colasso came up and unveiled a new Hulu ad format called the Ad Swap, which itself is allowing consumers to make choices about which advertising resonates more with their needs. So that was another kind of big, highly newsmaking set of conversations on our stage this morning.
And what seemed really remarkable, too, was that you invited the agency world to really come in an even stronger way than before with having the Martin Agency sort of co-program the conference. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, about a little less than a year ago, Mike Hughes, who's the longtime president and creative genius behind the Martin Agency, and really one of the most prominent creative executives in the modern history of advertising, and not incidentally an old friend, came to see me and said, I have this idea for a conference about story building. And I said, wow, Mike, I think that is the story, and it really frustrates me that in the digital industry, the digital media industry that I represent, they're just so focused on technology and venture capital and kind of creating ultimate efficiencies that they've lost sight of what really powers advertising. I'd love to get involved in that with you. And so a couple months later, I called him up and said, Mike, have you gotten anywhere with this conference idea on story building that you have? And he said, no, we really haven't made any headway. I said, well, I've got an offer for you. How about we incubate your conference in our conference? So we do the story building conference inside the IAB MIXX Conference because I want our members, all the big digital media companies, to understand that they can invest all the multi-billions of dollars in the world, in all the new technologies in the world, but unless they become expert at the art and craft and, yeah, science of story building, they will not succeed in helping their customers, big brand marketers, drive their growth.
Yeah, I thought what was interesting too was how he looked at storytelling as having a beginning, middle, and an end, and story building as having a beginning but no end. And those other distinctions about storytelling is sort of at you and story building is with you. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, what's very interesting about that, one of those things that, of course, is one of the deep, dark, not-so-secret secrets about my life is that I was a classics major in college. And so what Mike is talking about, and he and I have had this conversation, is actually how the Homeric tradition, the ancient Greek epic tradition, has evolved and become relevant again in the digital age. Because what people should know, if they don't know it, is that the Iliad and the Odyssey that have come down to us through history as big, thick books of verse, were not actually written by a single man named Homer. They're actually a series of myths that were promulgated and revised through oral tradition over many, many, many centuries and millennia. And so what digital technologies allow us to do, and what Mike was pointing out, is that they allow you to start a story rolling. They allow you to pick up a story that others have started rolling, but then you've kind of relinquished that story to the whole wide world, to build on those myths and those ideas and those characters, and that changes really the role of the advertising agency, changes the role of the publisher, and it really changes the role and the opportunities for the marketers themselves. They have to accept that they will be parts of other people's stories. That means they have to always be participating in and responding to and continuing to build those stories, but they don't own those stories anymore as one-way tellers. Excellent.
Well, so the classics, you know, next speech in Latin from the stage?
No, but I can do the opening of the Iliad in Greek right now if you'd like me to.
Yes, please. Just a couple lines.
Yes. Menin aede thea peleadio Achilleos. It means, tell me, O Muse, sing to me, O Muse, of the fury of Achilles.
Love that. Love that. And we'll have to follow that with a song later, maybe later in the day.
Yes, but the song won't be in ancient Greek.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Randall. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on the first morning of the MIXX Conference.